From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as
Johnny Dollar.
This is Willis Dunhill, Mr. Dollar. I took Marvin Shields' place at the Plymouth Life Insurance Company.
Oh, yes. Yes, I read about that in the journal, Mr. Dunhill. I'm glad to hear from you.
Thank you. I'm told you've done a lot of work for the company.
Yes, I've handled a few things.
I have an assignment for you now, if you're available.
I have an appointment at 10, but I'll be free by noon, if that's all right. What's the case?
Well, a policyholder, Millard Ward, was stabbed to death. He was a bosun on a ship, and according to the cable, the crewman who killed him is being held. His name is Louis Radnick.
Sounds open and shut, Mr. Dunhill. Is there an insurance angle?
Possibly, yes. Something about Radnick and the dead man's wife. The ship is due in New Orleans tomorrow afternoon, and we'd like you to go down and look it over.
Edmund O'Brien in a transcribed adventure of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Home Office, Plymouth Insurance Company, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an allegedly once heard them arguing about Ward's wife. With the permission of the lieutenant, while he and a coroner arranged for the removal of the body, I went to the airless cabin that served as a brig and met the accused man. He was 23 years old.
I've been saying that I talked to the police and nobody else. I still mean it, and that goes for you.
That's your privilege, Radnick, but when you talk to the police, you'll be talking to me, too. We're working together on this thing.
I don't get it.
I told you I was hired by Ward's insurance company. I want to find out if his policy had anything to do with your killing him.
Who told you I killed him?
Oh, it seems to be pretty widely accepted.
Did anybody see me do anything like that?
The men knew you hated each other.
How much does that mean?
There seems to have been something between you and Ward's wife.
That's a lie.
Why should anybody lie about it?
Who said that?
I don't know who it was. One of the men who heard you and Ward arguing about her.
I'll break his neck if I find out who. It's a lie.
For your sake, I hope it is. She's being pulled in for questioning this afternoon. You can see that if there was something between you, it'd be better if you told us.
There wasn't anything. I hardly know her. But for some crazy reason, Ward thought there was. I think it was because he was older, and those guys are always like that.
How well did you know her?
Well, just to talk to, have a few drinks together.
While he was out on the trip?